Hey, how's it going, guys? This is Hayden. It's been a while, um, but I just wanted to wait, before making a new video to make sure I had, something really valuable to make a video for. And I feel like I finally come to that point in my life where, I've learned a valuable lesson, and I feel like I'm turning a new point, new chapter in my life, and I'd like to share that with you guys. So, as the video title is, as you can tell, uh, is mindlessness is not a cure for pain. Now, a different, way I can word this in more common terms is ignorance is not bliss. Um, Now, the way this relates to my life is, through my early 20s. I just turned 25 in December, so I'm now, a quarter century old, and I'm past my early 20s now and into my mid 20s. And, my early 20s were categorized with, difficulty and challenges, as I'm sure a lot of other people are too. Um, in my early 20s, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, which is, not something somebody wants to learn, going through early adulthood. And it was something that I found very difficult, one, to accept, but two, also to learn how to deal with and live with as I'm going through college. Now, to kind of go into my next point of what kind of made my early 20s a little trickier was my college career. I was studying political science at the time, which I ended up graduating miraculously with a bachelor's degree in poli sci. But during that time, I had taken an internship in Washington, D.C. With Congressman Adam Kinzinger. At the time, it was a huge thing for my resume building. I was very excited to go to DC and live on my own. Um, However, I was going to work for a congressman who, at the time, was part of one of the heads of the committee of the January 6th trials, which was a humongous spectacle, to put it lightly, in the United States at the time, where they were putting on a congressional hearing for President Trump and his involvement with the January 6th insurrection, and all of that. So, as you can imagine, at the time, I'm 22 years old. I'm not even 22 years old, actually. I don't think. I don't know. It's hard for me to remember, but I was about 21 or 22 years old going into this. Um, and, I'm very naive. I think I'm going to, have the best time ever, get the best experience ever. And it just wasn't that. I was dealing with, my job essentially was to answer phone calls where, more than likely we were getting berated over the phone. Um, Death threats eventually became so common that I had to sort through 300 voicemails overnight, pick out the death threats and report them to Capitol Police. So that was a whole fiasco on its own. Um, and overall, that whole experience, while I feel very proud of my involvement in, um, I also feel like there's a lot of trauma with that in regards to conflict. And that kind of, also goes into my next point of also, just conflict in general became a very difficult thing for me. And whether it be through breakups with relationships, falling out with friends, um, just whatever the conflict may be, just all of that on top of also dealing with bipolar disorder, I kind of shrunk um, basically my entire life into just survival mode, and became kind of like, in essence, mindless. I stopped paying attention to international politics, local politics, social issues, which were humongous, huge parts of my life before my early 20s. I was very political, always have been. Um, and I was proud of it. And then also, just stopped, reading intellectual literature, stopped trying to learn. Um, And I feel like within the period from 2022 until, now it's 2026, I feel like it's just been a very stagnant period in my life. Um, and I feel like also, um, I kind of lost a lot of my confidence and self identity throughout these last like 3 or 4 years, and trapped in just flawed thinking patterns and behaviors that don't serve me at all. Um, and so I came to this realization watching a video of a YouTuber I like, and he inspired me just with his way of always wanting to learn and sticking to himself and what he believes in and what he knows is himself, which is something I feel like over the last couple years I've lost. So what I'm doing now to kind of wrap up this video a little bit is I'm opening my eyes to the world, whether that be through world events, politics, with care, obviously. I mean, I know with my own mental health, I can't just deal with being berated and, humiliated and all that kind of stuff. And right now, I'd love to be an activist. I just don't think right now I am at that point where I can deal with that with just with my mental health and all that. Um, but hopefully in the future, I can get back to that kind of life. But also, reading classic literature. I started reading in anticipation of Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey movie. I am reading The Odyssey. So very excited for that. Also the Iliad. I'm reading the Iliad first, but I'm going to read the Odyssey. And also just reading, political theory that I've always enjoyed reading, just rereading some of those as kind of an introduction back into that world. Um, and also just trying to reignite that spark for discovery and new experiences in my life. One thing that I want to do coming up, if I have the time for it, is to do the polar plunge in Chicago. Just something really simple and fun. It's a $35 fee, but I get to say I took the polar plunge in Chicago in Lake Michigan. So, just trying to reopen myself to the world and not close it off, and hope for no pain, because unfortunately you dig yourself a bigger hole when you close yourself off to the rest of the world and just hope nothing hits you. You become an uncrackable shell. But unfortunately, you need that new stimuli and experiences and relationships with people. So that's just something I kind of came to realize today. And I really wanted to make a video on it, just to share with you guys what I'm going through right now, and maybe this video can help somebody going through something similar. So thanks again, guys. I'm going to be coming back to the YouTube world, making a few more videos, and yeah, I hope to see you guys soon. Thanks.